Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm filming my December wrap-up, the last wrap-up of 2023, and a bad reading month. I'm joking, but I read 30 books and like all the other months I've been like above. But I still somehow managed to squeeze in 30. Actually quite impressed with myself. December was very busy. A video about like wrapping up my reading year will be up soon. Tomorrow maybe, or the day after. I hope you enjoyed this, and let's quickly talk about the 30 books I read in December. Starting off with my first read was The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramis. This one was my gum machine pick for the month, and it follows this girl who was a spy master, and then she has this dude who like they know each other for ages and they hate each other, but they don't really hate each other, and then it's just about them doing shit and finding out shit in the kingdom. And to be honest, I was really uninterested. I didn't like it at all, and I gave it like 2 stars. And I honestly like kind of almost forgot I read it because it just got deleted from my brain because it didn't give me anything. The story was so uninteresting. There was no world building. Absolutely did not like it. It was not for me. Sorry. Then my second read for the month was apparently Berserk 13. Now 14 I do have, but I haven't read that yet. This is like the final one with at least full 3 volumes in. Obviously love Berserk a lot. It's like my favorite manga right now. Fosgatsu is a swordsman, goes around killing things, and he has a very traumatic past that we go in excruciating detail in. So if you're for the lighthearted and like have any kind of triggers, then don't read this, honestly. But it is a grand, beautiful story, and I am like my heart when I think about it, and I obviously loved it a lot, like a lot, and I have full videos of me reading these on my channel. Then I read, but not right after one another, but I'm just going to talk about them together, Levithan Wakes and Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. This is like a grand sci-fi series, and the first one at least follows these 2 people that are looking for this girl that got missing in the grand universe. She was like she was like the daughter of like 2 like really rich people that were powerful, and then they're looking for them through this grand universe. Second one, we are finding out more things about the universe, I would say. And I thought I would love this, honestly, but I felt very like mid about it. I thought I would be like amazed and like blown away, and for me it was just like, oh my god, it just feels like a boring detective story just set in space. But for me, I felt like we didn't get enough of the space parts. I was just like bored. I didn't really care about the characters. I cared actually a bit more in the second one because we got a new point of view that I liked much more. Really liked that character. But overall, just feeling like, so I give this maybe like 2 for 5 and this a 3. And I'm hoping to like this series more later. Then I read Furysong by Rosaria Munda. This one is the final book in the Brilliant Cycle trilogy, and it is set at this school where they are dragon riders, and then these 2 characters that have been best friends since they were kids are fighting to become the first rider. And then there's also this rebellion brewing because the people who control things now are not good, but they actually were like the winners of another rebellion, which I think is kind of interesting. So we have dragons and friends to lovers that I really actually enjoyed, and overall just enjoyed the characters and the story. I really was pleased with the ending, and I liked like the whole series overall. I just felt like the first book was like very superior, and I really loved that one. And then the second and third I didn't care as much for, but I still really enjoyed them. Like, to compare, I gave the first one like almost 5 stars, and then the second and third like 4 stars, which is still really strong. But I just felt like I would overall call the series a favorite of all time, but now I'm just feeling it's a series I would really enjoy and I do recommend, but it's not like a favorite of all time. I don't know how to like describe the difference, but it was solid and really fun, and definitely a series I would want to reread, and maybe I will love it even more the second time I fully read the whole series. Then I read Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Volume 2, which is always confusing because it says part 1, but it's just part 1 of the first arc or whatever. The first volume was really weird. It follows these 2 characters. One of them is the son of this rich lord, and the other one is the son of this, I was gonna say, poor man. And then he's invited to live with the rich lord because the poor man saved the richest lord's life when he was a kid. He just tried to take over his whole life. He tries to like, he's super mean to like the rich son, and then like years passes and like everything gets out, and there's this mask that loves blood and it's evil. And now we have some training where like this is all played out and there's many different things going on, and the world building really expanding. This one I was quite shocked about that. It reminded me of Demon Slayer, and I really like it. The art is very different from what I'm used to, and I really like enjoy looking at it, and I enjoy seeing the story play out. It's really weird and like flashy, but I'm definitely like having a good time, and I'm excited to see where the story will go. I realize there's like 400 billion volumes, so I don't have space, but I will keep reading and then maybe eventually catch up. Probably not, but I'm having a good time. Then I read Lukkertid by Maja Lunde. This is a Norwegian book that is set in this world where people can't die anymore for period of time, and we have different point of view of how this affects them, because nothing grows anymore because nothing dies anymore. And I liked it, but I thought it was too many point of views. I kept mixing them up, and I think that this concept could have been like looked more into instead of just like it was very like surface level for me, because I'm like a world builder, you know. So for me it was just like it's not enough for me to be like, oh, this doesn't grow anymore, and I was like, what? And I fully didn't understand the concept because it wasn't explained really well. So yeah, I felt like totally okay by it. I think I gave it 3 out of 5. Then I read another Norwegian book, which is Da vi var yngre by Oliver Lovansky. One of the most talked about books this year here in Norway, or this is also when we were younger. So this is written by Oliver, who was like 19 when he wrote this, and he was about like the harsh life on the side of Oslo, like more of like the gang life, and it's written in like, I was gonna say an accent, more than like, I was gonna say properly grammared Norwegian. And it's like really, really short. There's very little text on each page. I felt like it felt more like a poem collection than like a full story, even though they do hang together in a way. But I felt like it felt more like poems. I didn't think like it flowed as well as a full like as a novel. I do think that while the language was fascinating, definitely something that you can talk about when you analyze and in school and stuff. I'm not in school, so for me I was just like, this is it kind of, because I heard so many amazing things. I thought I would absolutely loved it. And I just felt like, I don't know what to say, because it feels mean, because I know that a lot of it is based on his life. But just because it's based on life doesn't mean that for me the story is interesting. Because for me, I was just like, okay, this is just like any other like gang story with drugs in a way. And I'm not saying that those parts are not interesting to read about or interesting to talk about or hard to live through. I'm just saying that for a story that I find really entertaining, or like, not that it needs to be entertaining in that way, a story that I find that really grasps me and that I enjoy reading, because, you know, I read a lot, that's what I do. I was just like, oh, this is kind of it, which seems like I was very underwhelmed by the whole thing. And I was just like, everyone loves this, and I just didn't understand why. For me, what makes it unique is the language, but for me also I just didn't care. But yeah, Oliver was the nicest guy. I met him, and he's like super nice. I'm not saying the book is bad, I'm just saying that for me I'm like underwhelmed, so I don't even know what I rated it, but yeah. Then I read Olympus Volume 2 by Rachel Smythe. Very excited to continue this. I can't get a hold of Volume 3. I'm struggling, but I will eventually. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed our characters developing their relationship, and I really enjoyed this story overall. It is obviously a Hades and Persephone retelling and how they fall in love in this weird sort of modern Olympus. It has really beautiful and different art, and I'm like seeing, and I'm having a good time, but I need to look into how to get Volume 3 because I still have not ordered that. And I read another Norwegian book. Look at me, I was trying to do on a Norwegian vlog, which is coming, but now you already heard about all the books, so it's fine though. I can still post the vlog. We have den dagen Nils Vik døde by Furysong. This one is Furysong's newest. He hasn't released a book in like 10 years or something. I always heard his name, but I haven't read anything from him before. And then we had this arc at work, and I was like, okay, I will read it. And everyone was talking about how amazing this is. And once again, I feel like this genre is not for me. Not that Da vi var yngre was the same genre, but I don't know. Either way, this is just about an old dude who's about to die, and then he thinks about his life. And everyone was like, oh, I'm so sad. And I was just like, I don't care. I didn't care about this dude's life. I guess people really liked the language. It was fine, I guess. But I was just like, I don't care. I don't care about this old dude dying, which is also really rude, but I just didn't care. And I was quite bored. So it was at least very short. Then I finally finished Lord of Chaos by Jordan. Had to finish this obviously before the live show in December. And Erica and I used such a long time on this. It is so long. Like, it is so long. I feel like this is the longest one. So now we've done the longest one. It's all fine now. Actually enjoyed this a lot. There's a lot of fun developments happening in this world in this. I feel like, you know, entering the slump soon, but I just really enjoyed it, and just so many sample moments in this that I forget which book, where it happens and what book I was going to say. And here, when things played out and I knew what was going to happen, I was like, oh, it's so good. Like, I love these characters. I love seeing these events again so much. So it was such a good time. I think I gave it 4 out of 5. Then I read Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. This is like the Western of his. And then there's these people going out of this bounty, trying to save some kids. I honestly don't even know. I don't really love First World that much. I'm not really having a good time. I read it, and that's kind of all I got to say, because I feel like I don't really have that much to say, that I'm not really enjoying myself. I don't feel like everything is kind of boring and nothing is developed, that I don't care about the characters. I'm curious to see how I like the short stories. I like the Lost Trilogy, but I feel like it's not gonna end anywhere. It's just gonna like keep going in like this nothingness, and it's not gonna matter. So yeah, but I am reading through, and that's all I got to say. And I started on some of my syllabus for school. I was reading My Struggle or Min Kamp by Knausgård. I read book 1 and book 2. I delivered book 1 back to the library. This is Knausgård's like novels based on himself, and they are really, really known. And he just has had a really harsh life, like growing up with an alcoholic father, etc. So the first book follows him a bit in the future, where he lives in Sweden, and then we go back to when his father died, and it's like in detail of what happened there. And it's like, I was gonna say very traumatic, but the way it was written was very fascinating. And before that, again, we also had his like teenage years. So kind of like, I was annoyed at first in the first book, because it was so detailed and it was such a long time saying anything. It's so long-winded, so many words, so much text, and I was just like, why are we using so long on everything? But at the same time, that's what fascinates about the book. He remembers things in excruciating detail, and it's just very, very fascinating to read about, while at the same time disturbing. And then I was like, oh my god, okay, I kind of ended up like caring about this person who is very, I was going to say, close up. He doesn't look at anyone and how he affects other people. He only thinks about himself all the time. I meant that he could be a bit like closed up and selfish and not see the world around him. And then in book 2, I was like, okay, we're going to continue on this, like looking to the father's death and all that. No, this was only about his like adult life, him getting kids, him complaining about getting kids, him making more kids while hating to be a father and not wanting to be a father and hating to be with the kids. And I was just like, dude, why are you such an asshole? I'm sorry, that's me to say, because I know it's based on him. And like, I doubt he will watch this and sue me, but like, he wrote these books that everyone can now judge his life and his decisions and his thoughts, then he has to expect to be judged. I'm just saying. I was really annoyed at this because it was so boring. I didn't care about his life. I wanted to read about his childhood and his trauma. I don't care about him getting these kids and trying to write a book. That was like this long thing, like almost 600 pages of this. And I was just like, oh my god, let me out of here. I think the third book, we're going back in flashbacks again, which I preferred, because this was not it, okay? I'm reading it for school, and I always want to kind of read them because I was fascinated about like the concept and stuff. But I can understand the criticism it has gotten. It's very long-winded, very. Then I read Oshi no Ko by Aka Akasaka. This one follows this dude that is a doctor of this pop star who is violent, basically. And I don't want to say anymore, but I like it a lot. I'm fascinated about like the commentary we have towards the pop industry, but at the same time I want to go back on track on like what we are doing. But I feel like it's gonna take a long time now. It feels like it's gonna be dragged out a bit, and I'm like, okay, I will read it, but the first volume blew my mind away, and then the second and third I've been like, not as high for, but still enjoyable. Then I read 1938 Nights by Helene Sikos. I don't know how to say the name at all. It's French, I think. This book is translated from French, and it was also in my syllabus, and it is about the Christian Knights. I actually didn't quite understand the book. It was very weird. I thought it was just going to be like a straight up novel, but it was very like vague in what was happening, like kind of talking about what other people had said, and like it was really like vague. It also felt a bit like almost poetry more than like a novel. And honestly, I was so lost. But I read it and I was like, okay, I don't really understand what I read, but I can see some like glimpses of stuff. I was like, okay, this is quite like interesting. And then I was just confused again. But I read it. It was really short. When we talk about it in class, I'm not gonna have anything to say because I don't understand what I read. Then we have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I finished this on audio. It took me so long, and like then I started listening to it again because it took like a month break or something, and I was just like, oh my god, why does it never end? It was just such a long book. I think it's like, what, 700 pages or something, and I really liked the narrator. She's doing such a good job of emotion, like really making you feel everything Violet is feeling. It was a great time. Iron Flame is a sequel to Fourth Wing, follows Violet, who joins like the Riders Quadrant, and then there she needs to survive and meet Satan, who is like the bad boy, and then she should avoid him, but she's not. And then many more like political stuff is happening. Second book definitely went away from like the more romantic stuff to be more political, and I kind of didn't care for it. Like I thought it was cool, the developments, but some of the things were just so stupid. Like when they say in a book like, oh my god, I'm not gonna stop your development era, and like some of the reveals felt like, I was gonna say, almost a bit over the top. The ending, I was just like, seriously, this is so stupid. And other reveals, I was just like laughing because it was just so stupid. Like it was always something, and I get it, it's a book, you need to drive stuff forward, but I was just like, it almost came where I was like seriously, but at the same time some parts were so well done. Like honestly, like some parts were so emotionally invested, making me get goosebumps because the some part I loved so much. There was a part in the end where I was listening at the bus, I was crying. So I had to like dry off my tears like this, like, don't look at me. And I was like drying away my tears because I didn't want them to run because I was sitting on the bus. So like I'm so emotionally invested in so many parts of the story. I can think of like 2 parts of this book that I really enjoyed, and the other parts just felt like, oh my god, this is so ridiculous. It's like very hard for me to be like, I loved it, but I also didn't hate it, because as I said, some parts I'm so emotionally invested, other parts I'm like, this is stupid. So yeah, I'm feeling very like, I will continue the series, but it's not my favorite because some parts feel so ridiculous, but other parts are great, honestly. So yeah, it's you just have to appreciate for what it is, have a good time. Yay. Then I read some holiday books for Holiday Book Rush. I picked up Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lally. This one was this woman who has been living at home with a steady job, and then she loses her job and goes on this little trip to India to go to her best friend's wedding, and then she meets this dude who's very sweet, and she also, I was gonna say, finds herself a bit in like, after not really knowing who she is for a long time. And it was a really sweet story. It was good for what it was. It wasn't like amazing, blew my mind, but I knew what she was doing. It was sweet. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I liked the developments. I liked the main character. And I liked the setting and the story. So yeah, I give it like a strong 3.5. Then I read The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Han on Kindle. And this one is a Christmas Carol retelling, and it follows this girl who, I was gonna say, is the ghost of Christmas presents, and she needs to save this dude, I was gonna say, because that's what happened. Like, they gonna, like, you know, save him from being evil. Honestly, I love this so much. I don't understand why it was so good. I was just like, what? Oh, why is it so good? I was crying so much. It was honestly amazing. I think I gave it 4, but honestly, when I think about it, it deserves almost a 5. And just like obviously I know the moral of the story of A Christmas Carol. I'm gonna talk more about it soon in a moment even. But just how the story carried that spirit of that story, and it brought it into this like setup. And I knew the plot twists in the end before it happened. I knew it in my bones. And I was still like, oh my god. And I started to cry. And just there was one thing that was like this age gap thing that I kept thinking about a bit. That part of the story was kind of, I was gonna say, adjusted in the end. So I was like, okay, fine. But other than that, it was just so many parts of the story where I was like, my heart. Because it was just about family and friendship and kindness, which is really what Christmas Carol is about, you know, kindness and just being kind. And this story brought tears into my heart, my Christmas stone cold heart. And I honestly just had the greatest time. I didn't know it was going to hit me so hard. And I feel like I'm not explaining it very well, but it was such a good and solid story. So I very much recommend. And I don't have a physical copy, but I have ordered one now because I need it, obviously. Then I read Solo Leveling by Shugong, volume 7, which obviously continues this amazing story following the weakest hunter of mankind who becomes maybe the strongest one. And we're fighting these different demons and monsters and I was gonna say discover the secrets of the universe almost. Absolutely love the dark path we are on. As you can see, our main character is having a bit of a time. Absolutely love the whole story, obviously. And I'm so excited to watch the anime, which is soon coming. And I'm having the greatest time because honestly, it is such a banger. Such a banger. Then I read Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This one again on my Kindle. This one is about this girl at first that can travel over this bridge, kind of to a different universe almost. There's this old dude living there that captures children and takes them to Christmas land. It starts with her being a kid, and then she has a kid of her own in the future. And I was just like, I didn't care. I was not spooked. I didn't care about the story. I didn't care about those characters. I didn't even like concept. I was just like, who cares? So overall, I just didn't like it. It reminded me of a like ordinary Stephen King I read, and I was just like, I don't care. I really like The Fireman by Joe Hill. Really interesting, like kind of dystopia concept. Really enjoyed that. This one I was like, didn't care about anything. I was like, this is a stamp book that people really love. Not for me, guys. Very sad about it. But I read it and I'm like, I'm considering watching movies, show, whatever it is, to see how I feel about that. And maybe I will appreciate the story more then. Then I read The Christmas Wish by Nancy Kalk. This one I bought for the readathon. And it's basically a Hallmark movie. We have a main character who lives Christmas Day over and over and over till she has found out the wish. What could the wish be? Who knows? And then she gets closer and reads stuff of herself and around in her family. It was sweet. It knew what we were doing. We'd watch the movie, but nothing more than that. Like, not like a book I would be like, oh my god, favorites. But it's exactly what you expect in this kind of book. And that's okay. And it was good. Cute. Then I read My Hero Academia, volume 34 by Horror Question. What was happening? I feel like everyone is just sad. We had a reveal that was kind of huge in this one. Will read to the end, feel myself sad that we are kind of in the last arc, and I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready at all. Like, not by any means, okay? Then I read Løpe by Kerstin Elkman. This one is originally in Swedish, and I didn't really get this either. The syllabus we have is really weird. This one is about a woman who was like, we're not supposed to hunt wolf, but I'm hunting wolves. Or was it the opposite? Honestly, the whole thing flew a bit above my head. It was really weird. I didn't really get it. But yeah, we have a main character who's hunting, and then I think we're not supposed to hunt wolf, but they want to hunt wolf because they're eating the sheep. I didn't understand it. When we talk about it in school, I'm not going to understand anything. But I read it. Yay. Borrowed it from my library and have returned my copy. Glad I didn't buy. Then we have Defiant by Banner Sanderson. This is the final book in the Skyward series. The first part at least. We're gonna get Skyward Legacy later. And this one is the conclusion to a series following Spencer and her flights. And it was an okay conclusion. Like, I enjoyed it. I just felt a bit underwhelmed as well. Like, I expected, I don't know, more, even though we concluded stuff and like it was cool and I love the characters and all that. I just like felt like I didn't care about them as much as I used to. I don't know why. I can't put my feelings on why. It was just like, I don't know, maybe it felt repetitive to me. Maybe I just like don't care. I'm not emotionally invested as I thought I was in the story. But I was just like, I loved the first book. It had all my heart. And I really enjoyed 2 and 3, even though like we definitely like went downward in like enjoyment. And then to this, I'm like, okay. And I love the world that Brandon Sanderson has built here. There's so many cool parts of it. I just like didn't like when things were happening, I was like, are we done soon? And I don't know why. It wasn't even a long book even. And I wish I said it. I felt more like, oh my god, I read it done. It was amazing. But I'm just like, It wasn't amazing, but it was good. It was solid. First book is still one of my favorites. And I managed to squeeze in One Piece. I'm in the bus, I think it's 7. So that is volume 19, 20, and 21. Filmed a video for this. It was on my TBR and I was like, oh my god, am I gonna make it? I had to squeeze it in. We are still in Baku Works. Absolutely love the story. We're now like, I think, ending Baku Works with the next volume. So I'm like ready. Not like ready for it to be over. That's not a meme, but more like, I'm how to see how it will conclude, because obviously there are always developments and cool stuff being developed when like we're ending a fight in arc. I'm super excited to see where we'll go, and I love these characters so much. So in the end of volume 21, absolutely loved. And then I reread Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This was audiobook for me and Erica. We are going through the Cosmere. This is really smushed. I think I ruined it once upon a time. well, I had this obviously for ages. I didn't like this as much as the first time I read it. The first time I read it, I was like, oh my god, amazing, 5 stars. Ron Johnson is a genius. He still is a genius. But for now, I was like, oh, I'm kind of bored. I didn't care, again, about like the politicalness, the story, and how like all these pieces. There were some movies that were pretty cool. And obviously the magic system is amazing, but just how the characters for me felt really flat. How, since I read so much Sanderson now, I feel like he's using the same characters like over and over. I'm kind of like, isn't this the same main character as an Atlantis? Isn't this the same main character that we've seen in this character? Because I feel like all of the characters are very like, this character is like this. She thinks like this. And she's gonna have this development. You kind of know that these characters will develop to this kind of every time. And then they always do. They always evolve in the same way. Not like they all have the same conclusions, but like, you know where the character will end up by the end of the book. And for me, that like now becomes a bit repetitive and a bit like, especially mostly in his like women characters. I noticed this pattern now that I read a couple of his books. And I just feel like I'm a bit tired of it. And I noticed it extremely well in this one. And I know this is like on all the release now. But like if you read this and you read a bit of all the release has gotten better and more subtle about it. But now I just really noticed it really strongly. And it's just like, oh, it makes the story less interesting for me. Because it makes the characters predictable. While the plot is still super, super cool. And like the world building is, as I said, amazing. And I still care to see the grand scheme of this in the Cosmere. And like we have Nightblood here and so many things that I care about. I just felt like it wasn't as amazing the first time I read it, and I gave it like 4 stars instead of 5, which is like shocking to me that I'm saying that out loud. Atlantis was more amazing than I thought, because I thought I would like Atlantis less. I reread that earlier this year, but Warbreaker I thought I would love more, but it was opposite, which is really weird. It's maybe just me and where my interests lie and what I think about when I read now, but still really interesting. But yeah, still solid, obviously, and still should be read for the Cosmere and all that, but I'm like, Very curious to see like when he eventually writes those sequels of how much this world will expand and how much more I think then at that point then the characters wouldn't feel as predictable. So then I think I'll actually enjoy what Warbreaker does in book 1 much more, I think. Then I read Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot. Reading this for my Patreon buddy read along, seriously read along, I don't know what to call it. I never read the book 2, so it was fun to see the continuation of the story. Not a lot happens, I think. I think it's more like, let's discover this, let's do this. And I'm like, do you understand anything's happening? I don't know, but I'm excited to talk about it with my patrons and analyze it more. But yeah, I'm enjoying Murderbot's characters, really like cute and fascinating. Probably have more to say, but I've forgotten now. But I am enjoying it. Yay. And my last read for 2023 ended up being Norgami, Stray God, Volume 26 by Adachi Toka. This one obviously follows Yato, who is a god, and then he needs to be remembered to stay alive, and they have like these shinkies that they can use as weapons or not, and then he's fighting this evil person that I was about to say who was, but I read that's kind of spoiled if you haven't read the rest of the series. And it's taking so long. I'm like, it needs to end. This fight, I wish that we didn't have this fight. I wish we wrapped up this fight 100 years ago and just had another arc. I know that this is the last arc, but it's been so long. Like, I feel like the story is a bit lost in the winds. And I enjoyed it much more in the beginning, like so much more. And it felt it had purpose, and now it's just like lost in the winds. It's beautiful and heartbreaking. And I had like moments I feel like I should really care about in this one, but I just didn't, because I was just like, it's taking so long. Just happen, kind of. But obviously, I love the character still. I want to see it to the end. But I feel like this arc needs to wrap up, and then we need to have like a wrap up of the wrap up, and then eventually just end it, unless we start having a new arc, but I don't think we are. Which is sad to say, but I love them. I want to reread them all much closer together, so the story for me feels more coherent instead of like one a year. And then I think I will appreciate it more. Still love Norgami. Still love it. Still would highly recommend it. Okay, and that is the 30 books I read in December. I hope you had a good time with me here. I feel like I talked much longer than I usually do. I thought I had less books and then I could talk longer. Haha. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a robot emoji down below if you enjoyed this. You should see me soon in a new one. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!